Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today we're going to be using this beautiful stamp set from Gina K, and this is called Spread Your Wings. Butterflies, flowers, totally fell in love with it immediately, must have it. So here I'm going to go ahead and stamp out the large image with the flowers and the butterfly. There is a secondary flower image in there that's just a little bit smaller. And we're going to be talking about cast shadows. So this is something that's really easy that you can add to your images, especially if you're like me and you like to make one layer cards. Cast shadows is something that you can add to your cards that will just give you a ton of dimension. And once you find a way that works for you, you can do it the same every time. So that part is fantastic. I never change the angle in which I do my shadows. They're always the same. So I am stamping this image out in Gina K's amalgam ink. This is safe for alcohol markers, and mine desperately needs to be re-inked. I actually have a re-inker that I purchased that's on its way to me. I just haven't gotten it yet. So I want to talk to you a little bit. I prefer to do my shadows as if my light source is in the top right, so my shadows are in the bottom left, and you can see that with my pencil here. Like when I'm holding it, the shadow falls to the bottom of it. And so a really easy way to figure out where your shadows need to go is to draw a little arrow up in the corner at the angle that you want it to go, and then just very lightly take your pencil and draw little lines off of the edges of your images at that same angle. So you can see exactly where the shadows need to go. And then I like to start with my lightest color just in case I make any boo-boos. It's easier to fix if you start with your lightest color. And so I'm just going to follow those lines that I have drawn in for myself. And so again, this is if the light source is at the top right corner, shadows would be to the bottom left. And I'm not going out super far. The idea isn't to have this huge shadow. And obviously this is shadows, cast shadows, very simplified. You can change the angles and the light sources, and then it would be elongated and all of that. We're not getting into all of that jazz. We're just talking about very simple shadows that you can add that will give your image dimension and not be super time consuming, not be really confusing, just a really easy way to do it. So again, all of my shadows will go underneath my image and to the left-hand side. It can get a little tricky with these leaves up here in the top corner because it's closer to your light source. But if you just follow that line that you have drawn for yourself, you'll be okay. So here you can see this image on the left is the image that we haven't added a shadow to, and then the one on the right, how much more dimension it has. I am going to go in with a darker marker. So now this is a C7 to show you that adding the darkness really does make it kind of pop off the page. So try it with your lighter colors, get yourself a good outline, and then go back in with a darker shade, and you can really see it just kind of come up off of the page. You'll see it again when I do it after I color the image, but I just wanted to give you a good idea of how this was going to look, even when you have no other coloring added. So even if you just stamped this image or a image, and you just put a shadow behind it, already it's looking fancier and more dimensional than it was before just by adding the shadow. I am going to go back in and with my lighter color and just kind of blend out that shadow. So that way it kind of fades off just a little bit. But again, I'm keeping it super close to the image at hand because I don't want my entire background to just be dark. I just want that shadow to be behind my image to help bring it forward. And then that's pretty much it as far as the drawing the shadow goes. I will just let you look at it here one more time. Shadows on the right, no shadows on the left, and just how much more dimensional it is. And then we're going to get into the coloring. So I chose some colors that were complementary, and I'm actually going to do a video on choosing colors and how to choose a color palette that works up here soon. Just haven't gotten around to that one yet in all my spare time. So, but here I did choose two complementary colors because I knew that they would play really nicely together, and they're going to help give my image a little bit more like playfulness. Complementary colors, a little bit more playful because they are opposites on the color wheel. So I chose to do blue because I love blue. Blue is my boyfriend. And orange. Its complement is orange. So I could have switched it up. I could have done a blue butterfly and orange flowers. I chose to do an orange butterfly and blue flowers. And then you'll see I'm actually going to do another card just so you can see another example of a complementary color with the shadow, and to see that the shadow works pretty much no matter what color combination you're using. But that one I chose to do purple and yellow, which is another complementary color combination. So for the butterfly, so easy to color. This is such a beautifully drawn image. I just went in and did flicking motion to add some shading and some depth. I left the edges completely yellow and then added more of the shading closer to the body of the butterfly. You could obviously color this however you prefer, but to me, this is what made the most sense because it would be more condensed at the body of the butterfly. But just going to go through flicking motions, very light hand. You don't need to press very hard when you're doing the flicking technique. Just the tip of your marker should be on the paper. There should not be enough pressure that your tip is being bent when you're doing your soft flicking strokes. So I like to go lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest, and then that I feel like gives me the best blend. But again, I am still leaving that lightest color, that yellow, on the very edges. I'm not putting any orange there at all. It's still going to read as orange because we've added the other, mid-tones and then shadow colors. The whole thing overall will still read as orange, but it will leave my edges very light with that yellow. I chose to go with a brighter blue combination. There's more of a, like, the B20s are a little bit more like true blue. This is more like Tiffany blue, but it's my favorite one of the Copic color combinations. And so again, I'm just going to go in with my lightest color out to my darkest and then back in again. This image is beautiful and it has a lot of guiding lines. So anywhere you're seeing those little lines is where the illustrator intends for there to be some shading. Now, I do understand that images like this can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming because it has so much detail in it. They're just guidelines. So if you just put your shadows where the lines are and you're heavy-handed like me, you might find that your flower is overall a little bit dark. So typically what I do is when I am going in, I just am putting one line of color. So I'm starting with my lightest color. I'm adding a little bit of shading at the base of the petals. But for those lines that are coming in from the tips of the petals, I just put in one line of color. And as dark as I want to go, I just keep repeatedly going over that same line. I'm not adding any thickness to it or any width to it, just enough for me to get that, I guess, the dimension that the illustrator intended for it to have. And I'm going to show you one of these flowers and I'll do the other one off screen because they're basically the same thing. These are also the same flowers that are that single flower that's included in the set that's a little bit smaller I was talking about. Same style of flowers. So I think it was last week. I didn't share at the time because it's not safe. And I would encourage you also not to tell people when you're out of town or other people are out of town. But so last week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, he came home on Wednesday. Eric was out of town. And Peanut was on vacation, which he did make it home safely. Thank you, Jesus. And so I was so excited to see him yesterday. And we invited my parents over for dinner because, you know, my mom was also like constantly texting me like, you know, is he at his destination? Is he coming home? Have you talked to him? How's he doing? You know, because that's what nanas do. And so we invited them over for dinner. I was going to tell a different story, but I think I'm going to tell this one instead. And we'll have to tell the out of town story another time. So I did invite them over for dinner, but here is the rub. My mom watches all my videos. She's going to hear this. This is, Mama, I love you. This is no offense to you, but facts are facts. My mom eats nothing. Okay. In fact, I posted on Facebook the other day. It was like a little meme that I tagged her in that said, when your body's crying out desperately for fruits and vegetables, and then your response is, here, I got you some bread. That's my mom. She eats like half a bagel every day. Pretty much. That's all she eats. I'm kidding. She's not as bad as my sister. She's not as bad as my sister. My sister only eats corn. That's the only vegetable that she eats. All the other vegetables are not for her. So my mom will do salad, but it's only iceberg lettuce. My mom does not like sauces. She doesn't like wet food. And I love sauces. She doesn't like cheese. I love cheese. So we cook very differently. And my mother is a wonderful cook. Her mashed potatoes are amazing. There's a ton of things that she makes that are absolutely delicious. But we just have very different styles. So I wanted to make, like, I invited them over for dinner. But I wanted to make something that, like, I knew Peanut had been eating trash all week, right? He's been on vacation. They've been going different places, fast foods, you know, while they were driving and traveling. So I wanted to make him something that he would enjoy, but I was also trying to find something that my mother would actually eat. And so what I settled on was little chickens. I don't know what other people call them. That's what we call them in our family. Basically, it's chicken breast that is chopped up into, I don't know, about 2-inch pieces. And it's breaded and pan fried. And then my mom and I also do this differently. So she uses frying magic and breadcrumbs. I use Italian breadcrumbs, Parmesan cheese, and just like garlic powder, onion powder, salt and pepper. So I did leave the Parmesan cheese out of my breadcrumbs this time, so my mother would not eat it, even if she didn't know she was eating it. I didn't want to take any chances, y'all. So they both love little chickens. So that is what I made. I made little chickens. And then for the sides, typically I would only make one or the other. There's a pasta side that is what is it? Garlic Alfredo noodles. Garlic shells, noodles, whatever. Nathan loves them. So I wanted to make those for him, but then my mom doesn't eat those because obviously they got cheese in them. And it's a sauce. She don't eat no sauce. So she doesn't eat that. So I made her the rice-a-roni that she likes. Plus, I got my dad and Eric that I'm also feeding, so I figured, you know, two sides, they'd be able to pick what they wanted. And then I made green beans. Now, I make my green beans different than my mother. My mom makes her green beans like my gram did. So my gram was from Mississippi, Oklahoma. My grandfather was from Alabama. Like, they grew up very southern. So my mom always has a canister on the stove that is bacon grease. That's what my grandmother also did. This was, I mean, very commonplace in a lot of people's homes for a very long time. So my mom still has that, and that's pretty much the base of all of her things. Like, that's the base of her gravy. When she makes biscuits and gravy, she puts bacon grease in her green beans with some salt and pepper. And also, this is another generational thing, I think. My mom uses canned vegetables because that's what my grandmother did. And I think that that's pretty much, you know, what they grew up on. Now, obviously, when Graham was growing up, they were actually canning their own vegetables. But then, you know, as time progressed, she just used canned vegetables. I use frozen or fresh on occasion. But typically I use frozen vegetables, and I do mine with butter, garlic, salt, and pepper in the pan after I steam them. So the only thing I knew for sure that she would eat would be the iceberg lettuce salad that I went specifically to the store to get because we eat romaine. So I went to get her iceberg lettuce, and then I got the bread, the take and bake bread, and put butter and garlic and salt and pepper, no, butter and garlic and salt on the top of it before I put it in the oven. So I knew she'd eat the bread, I knew she'd eat the salad, and probably the chicken. The other things I was like hit or miss on. So her and my dad came over for dinner. Oh, and the other thing I made was the box mix. Typically, I don't necessarily make a box mix cake. I do enjoy baking, but this is a cake that my mom used to make all the time when I was younger, was the box mix pineapple upside down cake, and I haven't had one of those in years, and I knew she'd eat it. You got to know your people, you got to know your audience, you know? And so when Nathan went to the store with me after he got home from vacation, and so I asked him if he would eat it, and he said yes, he would. So we had pineapple upside down cake for dessert. But here is something that is funny. That's, I don't know, maybe you guys can relate. If you cook more like your household, or if your dinners are more like your household, we always ate dinner together. Like, very rarely as a child growing up did I ever eat over anybody's house. I was always at home for dinner. That was just something, like, that's what we did. We always had dinner together as a family. Consequently, Eric and I also tried to do that for our children. Like, we always have dinner together so we can have a conversation, catch up with our day, you know, see who's doing what, what's going where, what's the schedule, and just general conversation and spending time together. But my father was pretty shocked when I said that we have salad and bread with almost every meal. Like, we have salad, and then we have usually one other vegetable. And then I like bread. We're a bread family. That part is definitely true, but we rarely had bread at dinner time growing up. Like, I think probably it just wasn't something that was as readily available. Because, like, I said something to my mom the other day, and I was like, how come you never made apples and pork chops? Like, when we were growing up, that seems like something that would be right up your alley. And she was like, we didn't have the internet. Like, we had the recipes that we had in our recipe box. Which is fair. I get that. And I do get a lot of recipes off of the internet. Back to the card real quick. So here, this is totally not necessary, and I didn't do it with my second card. You'll see I left it, but I really like kind of changing up the images to make them my own, and so I thought that adding a little white detailing on the wing would make the butterfly just a little bit more interesting, and also kind of break it up from that shadow that we've added. Since it is a darker shadow, you can see it in real life, that there's a difference between the two, but it's harder to on camera. But this is just something you can add to kind of like mix it up a little bit and change the way it looks, and you can do a different pattern every time you use the stamp. I'm also going to outline my image because that's how I roll. You guys know I like a bold black outline. This card actually was the one that I donated. If you remember previously back, Linda had asked me for the Ohio Stamp Junkies retreat if I would donate a card, and this is the card that I donated. So they won a raffle basket and with my card in it, which was super exciting. So here is the two images. This one's just the black outline stamp. This one is completely covered with the shadow, and you can tell there's just a huge difference in the way that the two look. Here's the other one I was telling you about. This one also has the shadow and just a different complementary color combination, the yellow and the purple. If you don't want something that is as, I guess, different, you could certainly do more like a monochromatic. You could color your butterfly the same image or the same colors as your flowers, and it would look more cohesive. Here they do kind of look more like separate parts, but I'm totally okay with it. So anyway, yeah, we didn't really have bread like at home, biscuits sometimes, but I have bread with almost every meal because I love bread. So we do like garlic knots, we do ciabatta bread, we do drap biscuits, we do them Cheddar Bay biscuits from Red Lobster. Those are delicious. I haven't made those in a long time. I should make those. Maybe I'll make them tonight. So for the sentiment, I just stamped it down flat, and then I used a super old Kelly trick, and I outlined it with my white gel pen so it would be legible. And then what am I doing here? Oh, I'm adding the shimmer. That makes sense. I covered the whole thing in shimmer. This is just a clear shimmer because I like glitter. Obviously, you do you. If you don't like all that shimmer and glitter, you certainly don't have to do it. And then once this part is done, I'm going to give you another look at both of the cards. I did the sentiments and the shadows the same way. And I think they're both super fun and pretty. And I really do like this image quite a bit. Gina's stuff's pretty awesome. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that you will give a cast shadow a try in your next one layer card. And I will catch you on the next video. Bye.